This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. Here's VOCM Open Line host Patty Daly.
Well, all right. Linda Swain sitting in for Patty Daly, who is off this week. And of course, tomorrow you'll hear a familiar but different voice as well, because I'll be in the budget lock-in. Tomorrow is budget day in Newfoundland and Labrador. And amid all of the pressures currently facing Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, the vast majority of those responding to the VOCM question of the day today support a budget with less spending. The question of the day today was, what would you like to see in the provincial budget tomorrow? 60% of those who responded said less spending. 24% would like to see about the same amount of spending as was in the current and past budgets, and 16% say more spending. Well, how do you address some of the very pressing needs that are facing Newfoundland and Labrador today with less spending? We also are looking at how much in debt the province is, and our the amount of money that we spend on debt servicing. So it's a very interesting topic. If you have any thoughts on that, you're certainly welcome to give us a call. Let us know what you think. Well, a memorandum of understanding was signed in Germany yesterday between the German and Canadian governments to, in quotations, accelerate commercial scale hydrogen trade and secure easy access for hydrogen producers in the German market. For Newfoundland and Labrador, Minister Wilkinson says it is another step towards companies being able to sign agreements with German companies. But what do you think about that? We had a lot of calls yesterday about the proposed World Energy GH2 project on the southwest coast on the Port-au-Port Peninsula. A lot of people calling in to voice their opposition to that. I think most people, when you put the idea of green energy options before them, support that sort of thing. But how is Newfoundland and Labrador benefiting? We are providing great swaths of Crown land for commercial development. So I'd like to hear what people have to say about that. And the question that was posed yesterday by me and others is, where's our royalty regime? Have we heard anything more about that? We're hoping to get some answers for you on that as well. Well, on the same type of trajectory, climate scientists say Canada has experienced its warmest winter in 77 years of national record keeping. Winter comes to a close tonight or early tomorrow morning with the arrival of the spring equinox. But Environment Canada's senior climatologist David Phillips says it's almost as if this year's winter never really happened. Well, David clearly wasn't spending any time on the Avalon Peninsula. He says it's almost as if this year's winter never really happened and calls it the lost season. Indeed, if you look at the nation's capital, in the Ottawa region, they barely had any snow at all. Really uncharacteristic for that particular area. And out west, a similar story. Very little in the way of snow, although I think they are getting some snow today, at least in Alberta. From December to February, Canada was 5.2 degrees Celsius warmer than average. That's shocking. And 1.1 degrees warmer than the previous record set 14 years ago. So all of these things tie into each other. In the meantime, Ottawa's requirement that all new vehicles sold by 2035 be electric could increase Canada's power demands by up to 15.3%. That's according to a new study released by the Fraser Institute. The study says the switch would require the equivalent of 10 new mega hydro dams, or 13 large natural gas plants across the country to meet power needs. The public policy think tank says the switch to all electric vehicles in 11 years' time means the provinces will need to substantially increase their power generation capabilities. They say that task is not realistic or feasible. The study specifically measures how much additional electricity will be required in Canada and in 3 major provinces, including Ontario, BC, and Quebec, once the federal government's electric vehicle sales mandate comes into effect. Questions have also, of course, been raised here in Newfoundland and Labrador about the wanting electric vehicle infrastructure in this province and others. Most of Canada's huge, vast swaths of open land. And how do you put that kind of a infrastructure in place and still serve the needs of rural and remote communities, Indigenous communities, northern communities? Anyway, no answers seem to be forthcoming just yet. The Fraser Institute says Canadians need to know how much additional electricity will be needed to meet Ottawa's mandate, because the impact on the provinces and taxpayers will be significant. Well, as we pointed out off the top of the show, tomorrow is Budget Day in Newfoundland and Labrador, and watching very closely and in his own lock-in will be the president of NAPE, Jerry Earle, and he joins me on the line. Hello, Jerry.
Good morning, Linda, to your listening audience.
You and I will be locked up tomorrow, I in one room with the media, you in the other room with interest groups. What do you expect out of tomorrow's document?
What I'm hoping to see in that document, Linda, is something that reflects the challenges that many Newfoundlanders and Labradorians are having right now, that lessens the burden on them in some way, and it also deals with some of the crises that we're having in our housing. I've never seen before where we have a tent city in Newfoundland and Labrador. We can't keep using excuses that it's happening elsewhere. We've got to deal with our own province. And then I'm certainly open to see the crises that we have, for example, in healthcare addressed. And I've heard some rumblings. There's things there, but there's a number of sectors in healthcare that we need addressed. So that's some of the things I'm hoping that we will see in this budget tomorrow.
What specifically in healthcare do you think should take priority here?
What we have to do is find a way to keep the healthcare workers that we have in this province, whether they work in our long-term care or acute care or our home care workers, which is a group we're specifically dealing with at the moment, and then how we recruit people to come in. And we're going to have to invest in our young people. I believe we have to get out and encourage young people while they're in high school. There's opportunities to work in healthcare. It's a great career. I know we're having difficulties right now, but it's a great career if we can encourage young people, and we may have to offset some of the costs to get into programs, whether that be practical nursing, whether it be advanced care paramedics, whether it be home care. That was done years ago, so not reinventing the wheel. It's investing in people, and then the people that are coming here to our province, newcomers, and that encourage them. And I've actually seen some instances where people are coming here to our province, they've entered certain educational programs associated with healthcare, but again, supporting them for these programs because employment is there, but a lot of people can't afford many of these programs. So supporting people to go in, and I mean getting it on the ground earlier. Same thing with social workers, the same with corrections. We've had many of those discussions with government. I think that's a piece that's missing, getting out and attracting people earlier while they're trying to decide career paths. And I think there's an opportunity that our government could actually invest in newcomers and could invest in Newfoundlanders and Labradorians in that way.
Do you expect to see any concrete plans for, let's say, the replacement of HMP or the new St. Clair's, those kinds of initiatives?
I certainly hope we will, and I actually believe we will. I think that clearly with the HMP, for example, if we listen to the Minister of Transportation Infrastructure, we recently, with our frontline workers, correctional staff, met with department officials in Department of Justice talking about a concept design for the actual facility. We're still being told that this time it's going to happen, but I'm one of those that I'm going to have to see it actually starting. We should have been talking about a new facility already in the case of the correctional facility, but I believe that will proceed, and I don't mind giving credit where credit's due. I'll applaud government for doing that. And then investment in healthcare. St. Clair's, people talked about, do we need to replace it? It is an aged facility, certainly needed in this area. And again, I'd applaud the government if they're going to make a concrete plan, because that's not something that's going to happen overnight. It needs to be a plan that's sustainable, invest in our healthcare, because we do need that bricks and mortar, but we also need the people that work in those facilities and make sure we're taking the right steps to retain who we have and to recruit new. Just the same, they're currently trying to recruit people to work in the facility already built on the West Coast. So it's concerning. Yes, it's great to build infrastructure, but the investment has to be in the people that provide these invaluable services. And I believe a lot has to be done on the end that I'm talking about. Go out and talk to young people, talk about newcomers, putting them into education programs and actually supporting them to go into these programs so they're not coming out with a hefty financial bill as they try to start a career in healthcare.
What sort of role do you play in pre-budget consultations, for instance? Do you get a sense of what's coming, and do you get a platform in which to tell government your specific concerns?
Unfortunately, I don't believe enough a consultation takes up front, and it's not true consultation. We've kept asking in the past with previous governments on this one, talk to some of what I call the experts, that people that work in the system, people that deliver the services, not those that are making policy that people that work in. So that's a piece I think missed in budget consultation. A lot of people are not going to go out, log online and complete some form that I'm not sure anybody even takes a look at. I don't think true consultation takes place, for example, with social workers, with home care workers, with practical nurses and paramedics and correctional officers. What's missing in our system, in our education, like our students, like that's the people you need to engage with. They have solutions, but unfortunately, Linda, they're rarely ever consulted with. And I don't think it's true consultation that we see take place. And that's a significant piece, I think, misses in this old budget process.
Yeah, certainly. Governments used to have these, province-wide tours. They'd go to specific areas and invite people to come down and hear, no doubt, stories that they would not normally hear. So do you think that's lacking now?
That is lacking now, and it's impossible to list the number of members say, I wish they would come talk to me. And all they want is an opportunity to say, here's what we're experiencing in our workplace in Bonavista. Here's what a social worker is experiencing in Roddickton. Here's what a correctional officer is experiencing, and coming up with solutions. And all of them don't involve great amounts of money. It talks about investment, and some of it is just find a way to respect people. But that's a piece that's missing, Leonard. I think not just for our members. I think the general population don't get that opportunity. Going online, like I said, they talk about there's a site to log on. There's a small percentage may do that, but true consultation, sitting down and talking to people, and more importantly, as politicians, listening to people, listening to frontline workers, that's a significant piece that I believe has been missing in recent years.
So you held a pre-budget rally this morning. What was the main focus of that?
That is around what we believe is highway robbery right now, where transportation infrastructure, Minister Abbott alluded to some weeks ago, where they were contemplating now having sections of our Trans-Canada Highway, just get that, sections of our Trans-Canada Highway actually turned over to a private entity, and that would be our first step. We would have many more sections, I'd suggest. Our members in transportation infrastructure, known as MOS workers, do this incredible work. When we have snowstorms and that, they're the ones that's out there. They're the ones that maintain. So our members will send a message, as they did a couple of weeks ago, and will again, until we hear this government say we are not contemplating this further. Because we've even had meetings recently with government officials, and they're still saying they're contemplating this within transportation infrastructure. This is continued privatization creep. Something that we're not prepared to stand for, not one more kilometer. And as our campaign right now, this is highway robbery, in our opinion.
Well, so what does it actually mean, a P3 model in terms of highways? I think a lot of people can get their heads around the concept of a P3 model for the operation of a building. But when it comes to the operation of a highway, how does that work?
That's what we're trying to get answers for. What we've heard from the minister and the deputy minister there is basically saying this would be sections of highway that for 25 years, 30 years maybe, would be owned by the private entity. They'd be responsible for everything with that section of highway. In the winter, I'm assuming the snow plows that are operated by the public service would drive up to the boundary where it is, lift their plow, drive across the 40 kilometers, drop their plow again. Or the line painting crews that people realize start on the east coast and go right across the island. I guess when they get those sections, they'd lift the paint, and then the private operators would be responsible for doing everything from snow clearing to line painting to the guide rails to the ditching for that section of highway. And that would only grow because this would be your first step. What we're saying, if they had invested properly in public services, if they put the proper equipment there, the proper human resources, and they haven't let it deplete the way that it has, we wouldn't have some of the issues that we have. Because it's not the frontline workers make these decisions. This is ministers and deputy ministers and the bureaucrats in those departments. So we're not prepared. And I certainly hope that Newfoundlanders and Labradorians would not want to see sections of our highway turned over. I don't know, maybe toll gates would be next. That would be in some parts of the province to help pay for these sections of private highway.
And would that not cost more to government in the long run? I'm thinking in terms of limited
Absolutely.
competition. If one company, let's say, for instance, or conglomeration owns a section of the highway, then if a bridge washes out or a huge pothole develops, then you don't have competition for pavement there or road work or maintenance.
And that's what's been demonstrated in other jurisdictions. And like I said, it's not NAPE. We've gathered the evidence and presented, let people judge for themselves. Auditor generals in other provinces, Linda, have said exactly, not said, they've actually found in audits what you just said. They've actually said on sections of highway, for example, in the winter, less salt is laid down because the private contractor would have to buy the salt and distribute it, not at the rate that probably our public service would do to transportation infrastructure. The cost is significant because just to build highway, and this is not about the private entities constructing highways. They always have. This is about the continuation of the maintenance and those issues, which costs more. It's been demonstrated in other provinces, just not only by auditor generals in multiple provinces, by other groups that review these type of things. They've shown that there's been problems. There's been problems with maintenance and just cost. For example, people should realize a government can borrow money cheaper than a private entity can. If the private entity borrows this money, they're not going to take the loss. It's us in Newfoundlanders and Labradorians going to take the loss. We probably won't pay today, but look at the gift we're going to pass on to our children, our grandchildren, the cost of these highways, the cost of these long-term care facilities and other infrastructure, because that's when we pay the full cost. 25 or 30 years down the road, and you look as close as Nova Scotia and some things what have happened, the astronomical ballooning costs that have occurred, we pay for it. It makes a government look good, but Newfoundlanders, Labrador, that's our money, that's our infrastructure. Why would we kick it down the road to our children? Because I'm sure they won't thank us for doing it.
Jerry Earl, I do appreciate your time. Safe travels.
Thank you very much, Linda.
All
you
right.
and your audience have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye. That's the president of NAPE, Jerry Earl. What are your thoughts? By all means, do give us a call. You're listening to VOCM Open Line.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Big Land FM radio network.
And we are back. We're going now to Bill Murphy in Long Harbor, Mount Arlington Heights. Hello, Bill. Hello, Bill. You there?
Yes, I said, good morning, Linda. How are you?
Oh, good morning.
I don't think I've ever spoken to you before. It's a pleasure.
Yes. What brings you to us this morning?
I'm currently a member on the municipal council here in the harbour, and I am planning my resignation.
Okay.
With a heavy heart. I'll actually preamble, since this is the way it is. Over a decade ago, I came home to our little town and started paying attention to what was going on in the council and whatnot. And to my surprise, I was just curious. I was thinking about moving home. I had a chunk of a career started, and there was opportunities here. So I got, but it was very unwelcoming. And anyway, I stayed away for a while, and then a few years later, I ran for council. And this was when I first came home. It was before the valet plant, etc. Well, it was underway.
So you were working away, or?
Oh yes, most of my career has been a contract suitcase and a plane ticket type thing.
Okay, and so you decided to come home. You said, but you delayed that because it was unwelcoming. What do you mean by that?
No. I was getting involved. I was trying to. I thought I was going to be able to help in my little community that I grew up in, and started trying to get involved with the local town council and whatnot. And but time and stuff goes. But anyway, a few years ago we ran, and of course things changed a little bit. Back then, I had aspirations that, I saw the potential of all these small little bay cove towns. 10 years ago, we could have had 500 more people here, easy peasy. And it's right now. This is a town with the highest budget per capita in the nation. So, with that said, the reason I am planning on my resignation, but not until what the current goings on are handled in front of a judge. That seems to be that's the one thing that the vote controllers, I call them. And if you don't go against, if you don't 100% support their premeditated outcomes from council votes, then they go out of their way. I think this is actually unprecedented because I have minimal fine. I'm under my second suspension since I got on, with the maximum punitive 3 months. Blah blah. And went after I served. After I served the first one, the very first meeting, walked back in and have not and done again. And it's a constant barrage of paperwork to just overwhelm. And it's a lot of it is through these code of conduct policies, et cetera, et cetera.
All right, let's back up for a moment, if you will, because I think what you're referencing is your complaints against you made in contravention of the code of conduct. So you're being accused of just basically treating your fellow councillors and town staff with disrespect. So how do you plead on those allegations?
Malarkey. It's and this is why I want it in front of a judge. They keep coming up. Linda, it's got to the point like it's almost like the opposite of we're accused of all of these things up to and including an attempted peace bond, and there's
a peace bond. So what is precipitating that sort of thing? I mean, people don't just issue peace bonds against people for no reason.
One a bit. It's actually a colluded effort, which is why it got thrown out. And but I can tell you right now, up to even including the current mayor, who my sympathies because I think he's going through some health issues and whatnot. But he will not walk in. People will not go into that place without an impartial witness. But at the same time, the accusations come out of there that there's something they need to fear, or et cetera, up to and including spending thousands of dollars on high security enclosures which I debate for security purposes, and a lot of it's being generated by
security. Why would security be needed?
Exactly my point. But
against who or what?
No. Are glass doors that are that are the high security doors for that you'd have like in a bank somewhere. But they don't have in the city of St. John's. I spent many an hour sitting down with different offices in the last couple of years for permits, et cetera, down there in the city of St. John's. And here we are doing it in Long Harbour. But sorry.
Have there been incidents?
None that hold any merit. No. But it's a strategy. The former deputy mayor, who was respected nothing but integrity, and by the way, got the most votes. I pushed a while ago to dissolve this council, and if we got another year before the next election, and because it's totally dysfunctional now, and they'll debate me on it. The current deputy mayor just has all the time in the world and sits down and generates these paperwork, and a lot of it is subordinate to legislation and laws that would squash it entirely. Even so much that they utilize this contract consultant who has no teeth whatsoever, absolutely had nothing. His recommendations or studies, he's high priced. One of his last recommendations on a file on me was, you know what, the next recourse is the Supreme Court, and they actually had him vote on it. And if you read the letter, and they've been caught, by the way, changing minutes.
So of all of these things that you're referencing now, is this all against you?
No. There's files, but I'm not gonna go in nobody else's. I know there's one in court right now, and there's another councillor. But I mean, I'm trying to stick to mine and not put anyone else's in there. Even like the current deputy mayor now, I'm actually going to use the term "at the risk." When I first got on council many years ago, trying to write legislation that nobody in there was qualified to do so, and I got put on a committee with this guy, and it was just the two of us. So of course it's word against word. Twice he told lies to make me look like a liar, which was infuriating. And just yesterday, it was like, okay, listen, can me and you sit down and we'll have to have witnesses, because that way that's fine. I never asked for a meeting with the deputy mayor. I never asked for a meeting with the council. And knowing his history, I was in the woods. I was exercising my dog. At the end of the conversation, I said, "Now, Kevin, so we have an agreement, correct?"
Oh, sorry, I lost you there for a moment.
I said, I went so far before this, and now before I resign, I don't care what it takes. This is going in front of a magistrate of the Supreme Court. All of these complaints, all of the stuff. Let's get a ruling on it, and we'll see what the right. So,
are you taking the council or council members to court?
No. I'm going to make. This is the thing that they use. This is what all these bureaucracies do. Is like your average Joe doesn't have access to taxpayer-funded legal firms, but I've got about a 6-inch thick file reference over the years, and whatever it takes to force it in front of all of this stuff in front of the Supreme Court magistrate, which we're getting close, but
so
it's not there, and it's a sin. Like the former deputy mayor and his wife are almost sick. It's the most
okay. I don't want to get into personal accusations against individuals. Okay, I'm really not interested in that, especially if there's people who are not in public service. Okay, I don't want to get into anything like that. So basically, what you're saying is you're resigning, but you feel you're resigning under duress.
No, I'm not resigning until we get this in front of a judge. And this, okay, non-personal stuff. All of these filed complaints against myself, and I suggest all the other ones too, because there's always an avenue that they try to go down through to not put it in front of a competent judge who understands the law and how arguments against interpretations of the law in every shape and form is there, and they know. I'm quite confident that that's why they're avoiding the judge. Excuse me, sorry, dog. And but it's just enough is enough. I'm at my wit's end. Nobody else is going to pay my bills, and but this town deserves better.
Bill, I appreciate your call this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. And if anybody on the Long Harbour, Mount Arlington Heights Town Council wants to give us a call, they're certainly welcome to do so. We're going to take a very short break. When we come back, we're going to be speaking with the Mayor of Corner Brook, Jim Parsons, right after this.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Bigland FM radio network.
And we were talking casually in the newsroom about how we haven't seen a whole huge number of pre-budget announcements. Well, there's one coming today, just one day before the budget. More than $250 million has been announced now for highway construction projects for the upcoming road construction season. And Minister John Abbott is going to be outlining that plan. Today, VOCM News will be there. We are going now to the Mayor of Corner Brook, Jim Parsons. Hello, Jim.
How you doing?
I'm great. How are things in beautiful Corner Brook?
Oh, wonderful. It's been a really weird winter for sure, but spring has been teasing us for a while now. We haven't had a whole lot of snow here in the downtown, especially, and it's starting to see, I guess, the hopeful but dirty time of year.
Yeah, for sure. And the winter sort of bypassed you this year. Very strange.
Yeah, it has been weird. We started really late in January, and it's been rough for our skiers and our snowmobilers. But again, through hard work, they've all managed to get in a fairly good run. And now I guess we're all looking forward to seeing the green grass again.
Yeah, for sure. So, Jim, of course, one of the things that you always look forward to seeing is the smoke billowing from the stacks at Corner Brook Pulp and Paper. And I see that Corner Brook Pulp and Paper last week signed a deal with the provincial government that will take a few measures to keep that operation going. What's your take on it all?
Well, I understand this is a 6-month, agreement. If the mill has excess power, and I understand, and talking to the mill management, this will not affect production, so they don't anticipate this will cause any shortage of energy for their purposes. But if we can make sure that they have, I guess, a stable revenue coming from power, which we do need, and Newfoundland Hydro needs. And we can continue on with some investigation of how to diversify the mill. Sounds great.
And so what role does the city have in all of this?
Well, the city, of course, the city was based on the mill since 1920s. And so we're coming up to 100th year of operation of the mill. It is it's a huge part of our economy here still. We're talking revenues over $100 million of new money that's coming into our economy here. Our port is a big part of that as well. We've had record numbers of containers going out. The anchor tenant for that is our mill. So the mill operation is a very important part of our community. It still is, and it means a lot to the whole region.
Are you hopeful that, the life of Corner Brook Pulp and Paper can be extended either through biofuels or some other means?
Yeah, I understand they are looking at other products like biofuels, which is an exciting thing. Having our port operational there and having a deep water port makes a big difference to a mill operations. It allows them to export product, whether that's paper or maybe down the road some biofuel, all over the world. I had a previous mill manager once tell me that don't think of the mill as a purely newsprint operation. Kruger sees it as an infrastructure with a really good power source, and that being the dam up at Deer Lake. And that's really encouraging because that means there's a valuable asset here, and how it's being used and how it will be used in the future, the possibilities are endless.
I know that shutdown back in November had a real chilling effect on the town. We discussed it, you and I, at that time. What is the general morale, I suppose, of people in Corner Brook and in particular the workers there?
Well, I think if I recall correctly, I told you at the time not to worry about this. Let's not push the panic button. Shutdowns, temporary shutdowns like that, are not an uncommon occurrence in the history of the mill. Quite often they're coupled with maintenance operations and things that have to be done anyway. But the mill is very sensitive to prices when it comes to newsprint. And there's always adjustments going on. So in a lot of opinion, there is, still an oversupply of newsprint in the world market. And that has changed. Newsprint prices have remained pretty high, but not high enough. And so it's anticipated that over the next couple years, you'll still see decreasing worldwide demand for newsprint, but our mill produces really good quality, fairly low cost paper, and with its power supply, it has a real competitive advantage here, skilled workforce, and again, great timber supply. So, we're fairly confident that it can weather those storms. But diversification is something that the company and government realizes that they have to work on to overcome the future. Because, unfortunately, for our pals in the news industry or newspaper industry, paper is not newsprint is not going to be here forever.
Are you encouraged, though, by the signals that the CEO, Kruger, seems to be sending that he's committed to Corner Brook? Yeah,
and I do think, and I don't think that's, he's spinning anything there. That's the sense I've always gotten from the management here and the current manager as well, that there is a lot of possibilities for this mill. It's an infrastructure with a really stable power source, and a cheap power source, and that makes it very, flexible and able to do many things. So I really look forward in the coming months to seeing what alternative products can be produced and done as well. And of course, they're a private company and they want to make money. So if newsprint makes money, they'll continue to produce newsprint. So it's a going concern, and I'm encouraged that they're committed to that.
And now, to another point, you mentioned the green grass. What's ahead in Corner Brook this summer?
Oh, of course, we'll have our tourism industry is booming out here. We're going to have another record cruise year, of course. So we're going to see, I think it's over 30 this year. We're now the cruise capital of Newfoundland. We see more cruise passengers than anywhere else. And of course, we'll have our festivals. So we have our great ATV tourism, all those things going on. It's an exciting time. I mean, this time of year is, like I said, it's the dirty time of year. But pretty soon, all the winter, the skis get put away, the snowmobiles get put away, the ATVs come out, the mountain bikes come out, and it's a big change, right? So it's an exciting time. And I'm really excited to see what's going to happen in that budget today, really.
For sure. And so we'll be letting you know all the news, especially as it relates to the West Coast, come 2 o'clock tomorrow.
That's right.
All right, Jim Parsons, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All righty. Bye-bye. That is the mayor of Corner Brook, Jim Parsons, feeling, not so pessimistic about the future of Corner Brook Pulp and Paper in particular. Your thoughts, by all means, give us a call. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we hope to speak with you.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Bigland FM radio network.
And we are back. We're going to go now to Jack. You're on the air. Hello, Jack.
Yes, good morning, Linda. How are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. Linda, I'm calling with regards to vaccines, and of course, I'm on the Government of Newfoundland website here under releases, under the healthcare, and there's a public news release that says there's a public advisory. It says Chief Medical Officer of Health encouraging vaccines against measles, which is good, and I understand that. So if you read down through it, and then there's a bold print here that says, at this time, we are making the following recommendations to those who are travelling outside of Canada, particularly to areas where measles is known to spread, or to an area where there is measles outbreak. Now, of course, there's all kinds of measles outbreaks, as we know, and we heard on the news lately. I mean, it's in Florida, it's in Europe, is everywhere. Under this section here, it says individuals born in or after 1970 should ensure they have 2 doses of the MMR, which is measles, mumps, rubella vaccine prior to traveling. Then it says individuals born before 1970 should ensure they have one dose of MMR vaccine prior to traveling. Now, I know our kids got it. I mean, they're adults now. They're in their 40s. But before 1970, I guess there was no records probably kept as such. So
and the vaccine didn't become in widespread use until I think it's the late 60s, 68, 69, something like that.
Yes, that's right. I think it was 66, actually, if I'm not mistaken, but that's when it came about. So, like, personally myself, I feel that, yes, I mean, back then, everybody was vaccinated. You had it before you went to school and stuff like that. But I'm not 100% sure.
Right.
So I would like to find out off Eastern Health. I called and left messages. I haven't heard back from anybody yet.
You'd like to find out if you were vaccinated, or you'd like to find out how to get a vaccine?
Well, like I said, I'm pretty sure that I am vaccinated. I'm not 100% sure. But I would like to find out if I can go get a vaccine just in case, because obviously I was born before 1970. But my concern is that if they got out this public advisory against the measles and recommending if you're going traveling to get a shot. I mean, I called Eastern Health yesterday. Actually, someone dropped in over there on Topsail Road, over the Sobe Square, and they didn't have a whole lot of satisfaction from them, only that we don't have the vaccine here. The pharmacies don't have the vaccine. So, like, if you want to go get this vaccine in case you don't know if you had it or not, where do you go get it? And is there a charge? And why would there be a charge if they got out a public advisory saying to get vaccinated if you're going traveling? I mean, it's no different than COVID.
Important questions all. And what we were told is if you were unsure or if you wanted to make sure that you had the vaccine, you should seek out your local public health office. You said you did that?
Yes.
Yeah. And they were...
And still waiting to hear back from them. Uh-huh. And of course, not hearing back from someone that I know did go to like I said, over on Sobeys on Topsail Road, over to the Eastern Health there. They have no vaccines. None of the drugstores have the vaccines. So, like, if you're not sure and you wanted to get it just in case, where do you get it? And if they got out a public advisory, why isn't there a vaccine clinic? Because, I mean, it's a small world today. People are traveling and, one day you're in Europe and the next day you're in Newfoundland. The next day, I mean, you could be anywhere,
Well, the advisory is specifically for people who are planning travel, because if you live in Canada, the vaccination rates in Canada are extremely high, as is the case here in Newfoundland and Labrador. But if you were planning a trip to a known area where there is an outbreak of measles and it's highly contagious, you can get it in a variety of ways without even knowing it.
Right.
So what they're advising is that you just ensure that you are vaccine, that you have your vaccine. And for anybody born before 1970, they're considered to be, generally speaking, they're considered to be naturally immune, because the chances of you becoming exposed to measles over the course of your lifetime is relatively high.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you've already been exposed to measles, you're considered to be immune, but you might not be, if you know what I mean.
No, that's right. Yeah. And I mean, and without knowing that, and I mean, knowing that if I'm going to Florida, I mean, and there's an outbreak in Fort Lauderdale, and you don't even have to be going to Fort Lauderdale. You could be going to Orlando and going into Disney. I mean, people from Fort Lauderdale are coming off of cruise ships and coming from everywhere, and and they're probably going to be in Disney, and you know what I'm saying is just a small world today. And so you're saying individuals born before 1970 should ensure they have had one dose of MMR vaccine prior to traveling. So I don't know like I said, I really don't know if I had the vaccine or not. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say yes, more than likely I did, because back then everybody was vaccinated for polio and measles and mumps and all this stuff before you could even go to school. So I don't know. I'm assuming that I am vaccinated, but if I wanted to get this shot, how do I get it and where do I go, and is it going to be covered? And the fact that they're saying that they're recommending and putting out a public advisory to get vaccinated for it, I mean, shouldn't they be covering the cost of it? Or
a good question.
So I don't know if Dr. Fitzgerald can come on and straighten some of this out, or if the Minister of Health knows, because it's kind of a grey area right now for people that were born before 1970.
Yeah,
You know,
indeed. And I think the big concern here, although they're not, saying it outright, but I think the big concern here is, spring break, that kind of thing, where a lot of people congregate in big, numbers, and it's primarily young people, and some may not be vaccinated, depending on what their personal circumstances are. So, I think that's kind of the unsaid concern here, but I stand to be corrected. Jack, you're raising good questions, because a lot of the information for a lot of people feels vague. But I don't know if you're in a very high risk group, if you know what I'm saying. So we'll try and get those specific answers. I believe Dr. Fitzgerald is going to be on with Tim Powers this afternoon, and I'll try and convey to him some of these concerns and pass them on.
Well, obviously, if there's a public advisory out there by the Chief Medical Officer, you would think that there is some concern,
Yeah.
And if there is, well, like I said, and it's mostly for people travelling outside of Canada, which I'm going to be doing within the next couple of weeks, and I'm concerned about that. Right, that I want to find out if I can get a vaccine just in case. Right, and that's all it is for. I mean, like I said, more than likely I am vaccinated, but I don't want to take a chance either.
Jack, our producer Fonz King has a number to pass on to you if you want to hold for a moment.
Yeah, I can take that number, sure. But like I said, I've already got a call into Eastern Health and that, so.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll put you on hold, and we'll see if you get anywhere with that. And if you do, will you call us back and let us know?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Just 1 second. Now I'll put you back on hold. Jack asking some important questions there, especially this time of year when people are doing or planning to do some traveling. We are going to go now to Jim. You're on the air. Hello, Jim.
Yes, how are you today, Linda?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm not too bad. I just got released from hospital in Health Science yesterday. And I had surgery, I had a knee replacement, and I couldn't believe what I saw when I came out.
What's that?
I came out to get aboard a vehicle that came out in from around the bay to pick me up. They went down around the circle there, and when they went down there, the gentleman or whoever was down there told them they had to go back and go around. Here I was sitting out on the parking lot in a wheelchair with blankets around me, snow coming down around me, and I said to the security there, I said, look, this is ridiculous. I said, you got 3 or 4 ambulances there stopped on the side of the road, nobody in them. Here I was in a wheelchair, and the snow was coming down, and I was with my pajamas on and everything else. I don't think I should have that. I'm 75 years old.
So you had a vehicle coming to pick you up, and it wasn't allowed to go in where you were?
No, well, he went around, and then they told him he had to go back, and when he went back again to go around, they wouldn't let him in. The security wouldn't let him in. And I said to him, look, I'm not here for getting hamburgers or anything else. I said, I'm getting released from the hospital. I was in the hospital. The hospital was tremendous. The nurses, the doctors, everybody was beautiful. But when I got out to come home, then it was ridiculous. As far as I'm concerned, they should have a place there for people that are getting released from the hospital, have a place so that they come there and pick them up. I shouldn't have to. I am 75 years old. Why should I have to sit out on the parking lot and the nurse there with me? Sitting and waiting to get aboard my own vehicle, not a taxi or anything. My own vehicle come in from around the bay. They came in 100 kilometers to pick me up.
And how did they finally get you?
Well, they finally come back, and I said, I saw at the security fellow. I said, he stopped it here now. Because I said, I'm going to get up out of my wheelchair. And then Buddy stopped, and I got the wheelchair. I said, the buddy there was there. He took me over and he got me in the machine. I shouldn't have to go fighting getting out of the hospital.
You're raising a very good point, Jim. I wonder how many others have encountered that similar kind of circumstance just being released.
Well, yes, that's what I said to them there. I wasn't asking for nothing.
Yeah. You okay now?
Oh, yeah.
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 How's your recovery? Are you able to get up and around?
Oh, I'm starting to get up a bit around, yeah.
Yeah.
And, yesterday was a bit of a low day. It was snowing, it was raining, and they had to try to help me to get me in the van. They came in from around the bay. It's not like you were in St. John's, you could just get a taxi. But here we were with 3 or 4 ambulances stopped on the sides of the road. All they had to do was just haul ahead there and put me aboard, and that was it. I wasn't causing no trouble. I just wanted to go home.
Not a lot of dignity.
And like I said, Linda, the fans, the staff and the people in the Health Science Centre, I don't care what anybody else said. I got the best of treatment that you could ever get in the world. But when I got outside, I got the worst treatment of ever in the world.
And you'll never forget that, will you?
No, sir. And I'm 75-year-old.
Well, you're home now. That's the main thing. I'm sorry that happened to you. It doesn't make you feel very dignified, does it, to be in that kind of circumstance?
I got no system outside whatsoever. None whatsoever. It's time for Mr. Ferry and all these fellows get out and see what's going on. Put a place there so the people, old people, especially old people, not only myself, the people that can't get out, coming there, trying to get out, get home. They got nowhere to park their vehicles to pick them up to bring them home. Here's the poor old souls. They want to come home. And I'm one of them. I didn't ask for much yesterday. All I asked to is to let the vehicle stop and pick me up and bring me home. That's all I wanted. That wasn't asking too much, was it?
No, sir. Jim, I'm glad you called. We'll see if this gets any action. You take care and continue in your recovery.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye. Well, if you've encountered something like that, I'd like to hear what you have to say. We're going to take a break now for the news with Brian Medora. This is VOCM Open Line. Now is your opportunity to give us a call.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Big Land FM radio network.
And we are back. We're going now to Terry. You're on the air. Hello, Terry.
Hi, good morning, Linda. How are you doing this morning?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. I'm calling to talk about the wind turbines.
Yeah.
And actually to remind people about the deadline of March the 20th for feedback for the WEGH2 wind turbine development on the Port-au-Port Peninsula.
And that's the environmental assessment, is it?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah.
So they got until March the 20th to submit their questions and concerns about it. Mm-hmm. And if people want to, they can just head to protectnl.com. And they can send emails to their MHAs right from that site.
Okay.
And you mentioned about the royalty regime for the wind turbines.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about that a little bit as well. The water royalty, the price we're getting for the water it's 5 cents for every 100 liters that's used. And in my mind, that's really giving our water away. And that price is just way, way too low, especially with fresh water becoming, it's becoming more expensive around the world.
So what is that much water being used for? Is that part of the hydrogen production side of things?
Yes, it is. That's where they're going to convert the water to hydrogen. Mm-hmm. So they're going to break the molecule down. And then convert it to ammonia and ship it over to Germany. Of course, that's the plan. That's what they're saying the plan is.
Yeah.
And also the price for the land rent. It's I don't really understand how they do it, but the wind turbines themselves they're going to decrease the value of the land, and the royalty is based on the value of the land. So we're going to be getting less money because the wind turbines themselves are going to decrease the value. That's been proven around the world. I
guess the big question is, how is the local population benefiting from this, aside from whatever jobs accrue from it? But essentially, this is a private enterprise.
It is a private enterprise, but I think what main thing most Newfoundlanders don't know is we are the biggest investors, although we don't have a voice at the table. Because we're investing our land and our water, and we're also investing our tax dollars to the tune of billions of dollars. So when you look at the big picture, we are the largest investors, and we don't have a voice at the table. and we aren't the main beneficiary because, as you know, the business people, they want to make the most money. So they will make the most money even though we are the biggest investors. And that is just not right. That's just giving our resources away again. And it almost reminds me of Churchill Falls. Like we invested our resources, and all we got I think it was $2 billion, and Quebec made $30 billion. So if it's on the scale of that, like we don't want another Churchill Falls where we get just peanuts compared to what the proponents are going to get.
Indeed, and yet Churchill Falls is benefiting us all by producing power for our needs, if you know what I'm saying.
It is, for sure, yes. But then, like I say, Quebec made $30 billion compared to our $2 billion. And it's our land, it's our water, it's our dam. Now, Brinko did put up the money to build the facility, for sure. But I just think that going forward, we can't make these kind of deals. We're almost $20 billion in debt here now as a province, and something has to change. We can't keep on making deals the way we made them in the past. It's proven in the amount of debt that we have accumulated, and there's no way we can pay that off.
So how would this whole endeavor be better handled? Do you have a concern with the process? Is it a concern with the project itself, where it's located? What would you have preferred to have seen?
Well, I would have preferred to charge what the market will bear for the price for the land and the price for the water. And if the proponents aren't willing to pay for that, then to send them elsewhere. And so they would go elsewhere in the world, put up their wind turbines, and that would leave Newfoundland untouched. And going, say, 4, 5, 10, 20 years down the road, Newfoundland would be the last place on the earth that doesn't have wind turbines. And then if somebody wanted to put the wind turbines here, we could dictate the price, and we could get a higher price. It's almost like investing. When people are rushing into an investment and the price is continually going up and up and up, a lot of people will invest. But really, the best way to invest is when the price of the commodity is coming down and getting in then. So that's the way I see it.
We took a call yesterday from a gentleman in Ramia who says, they have wind turbines in their community, and he doesn't see a real problem with that. Now, the number is far less than what's being proposed on the Port-au-Port Peninsula. 5 or 6,
and they're about 120 feet high, I think.
Yeah. So, what's your take on that?
656 feet high. So there really is no comparison there. And the quantity they're proposing, I think it's nearing 1,000 now. This is only the first phase. So how many thousands of wind turbines are we expecting here on the island of Newfoundland and for our offshore? And how is that going to affect our inshore fishery? There's just too many questions that are unanswered, and our politicians aren't talking about it. I don't know why. You would think they would be upfront and telling people exactly what they're going to do, but we don't even know how many wind turbines are going in total in these projects.
Terry, I really appreciate your call this morning. Thanks very much.
Well, thank you too. And before I go, I'd like to just tell people that if they go to EnviroWatch NL this evening at 7:30 on Facebook, there's a webinar, and they're going to be discussing the wind turbines as well. All
right, Terry. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome, Linda.
Okay.
Nice talking to you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Oops, I'd cut myself off instead of Terry. Sorry about that. Your thoughts on that, by all means, do give us a call. When we come back, we're going to speak with the member of the opposition, Paul Dinn. We're going to talk childcare when we come back right after this.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Big Land FM radio network.
And we are back. We're going to Paul Dinn. You're on the air. Hello, Paul.
Hi, Linda. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm not bad. We're just so close to spring.
Indeed, and so close to the budget.
Oh, yeah, that's another thing altogether, yeah, for sure.
Any expectations?
Oh, well, I have a lot of expectations, when the budget comes down. There's so much things that we need done. Of course, I'm gonna get that high school announced, so that's a good thing. for Paradise. But we'll continue to push that because announcement is an announcement. So I'll continue to advocate to get that school done. And there's lots of other things, healthcare, cost of living. These are major issues. So hoping to see what government provides in dealing with the major issues that we're all dealing with as society. It's it's a lot out there that needs to be addressed, no doubt about it.
And childcare spaces, because that's a big part of economic development here in Newfoundland and Labrador. So you're disputing some of the numbers being released.
Well, it's not so much, I guess, the number itself as it is, the image that's being portrayed. Because in the House last week, Minister Howell spoke to the 8,600 that are availing of $10 daycare, and that's good. I mean, people are going to avail of $10 daycare, but that's only one part of the equation, because most of those positions, spaces are not new spaces, which is what we need. We need new spaces. So I was hoping to ask some questions in the House Assembly on that, but of course, as you know, we took an early vacation. It seems we were cut short on a couple of days of asking those questions. So then, timely enough, there was a report on the news about where Newfoundland's lagging far behind on the seats that should be created. And in addition to that, I had the opportunity to meet with the Jimmy Pratt Foundation last week as well. And they raised a lot of concerns in relation to childcare. And I've been getting quite a few calls of late on childcare, and I'm sure everyone else has. In particular, people telling me that their after-school seats are being eliminated, or there's some inclusive seats that have been eliminated. Now, their suggestion, from the parents that call me, they suggest that it's probably because they assume that it's because full-day seats are more lucrative than part-day seats. Now, whether there's truth to that or not is something to be explored even further, which was why I was hoping to ask the minister some questions on that. But I mean, obviously, what it is it just indicates there's an issue out there. There's an issue with childcare right now in terms of creating those new spaces, for individuals, and it doesn't seem to be headed that way. And to be honest with you, we haven't seen a plan. We haven't seen a childcare plan. So we have no indication of whether we're meeting targets or meeting timelines or what the measurable results are. To give us the one big pitch number of that 8,600 are available of $10 daycare really tells us nothing, in terms of what's success in daycare. So I can only go by people out there with lived experiences, people that are calling me, people that have to decide on whether they keep their job or not, so they can look after their children. That's still out there, and it's still a major issue. And there are solutions, Linda. There's solutions out there to deal with this. And in talking to, for example, to the Jimmy Pratt Foundation, they talked about benefits, benefits and pensions for those in early childhood positions. That's something that's lacking, something that they would need. Talking about leave, in terms of vacation or sick leave, those are things that should be included, and things we should be looking at. Even using schools, and having children go to school earlier, can help. And I'll tell you this: even when we have our discussions on the Paradise High School. And it's a wonderful, wonderful family parent group, community group that's involved there, very energetic, I got to say. Like, we've had discussions, and one thing that came up quite often was, for our new high school in Paradise is to having a child care center in the school. These are all great suggestions, and, all we keep hearing these part of numbers, 8,600 and this and that, but we never get the full picture. And the full picture is to go out there and to find out what's missing and what we're hearing. And as you know, it was only recently government announced a child care demand portal, right? I mean, these are things, you talk about putting a horse before the cart. I mean, these are things that should have been done earlier. They have using this as a tool to try and understand the current demand for child care services. I mean, that's what they're doing now. When that should have been done much earlier. But, I mean, at the end of the day, children are our most valuable resource, and if we don't set the system up to work, then it's only going to be set up to fail. And when parents are calling in and saying, my child no longer has an after-school program, or my child who needs, special needs is no longer has a space, that's troubling. That's very troubling out there, and and I'm not saying the government's not doing enough, but it comes down to the fact that we don't know the true data and figures on success here.
Well, I was going to ask you because they had some pretty lofty goals. Do we know how many new spaces have been added and where?
Well, I mean, looking at that report that was on the news the other night, they talked about the $10 daycare. I think Newfoundland was supposed to hit a figure of just shy of 6,000 spaces, and to date they've created just over 1,300. So, I don't know if that's on par. I don't know if that's ahead. The news reports seem to indicate that we're lagging very far behind. And the other thing about it is, you can create spaces all you want. It's no different than having beds in healthcare. You still need to have the staff. You still need to have the staff to look after our children. And, we don't seem to be getting that information or if that information is available at all. So, I'll give government, government has to focus on their high points, but we really need to know the details of what's behind that, because what I'm hearing from people out there is quite the opposite of what the story government is pushing. And that's, there are still major issues out there when it comes to childcare. And, we need to, at least start presenting the information that we have in a clear, concise manner, so that individuals out there can make informed decisions on whether they're going to have to give up their job or whether they're going to have to move out of the province. Or in some cases, the families are looking, can we have children if we can't afford daycare or have daycare for them? So it's a major issue, really, and it continues to be. And something really needs to be done about it. And, as I said, places like Jimmy Pratt Foundation have provided, some solutions, so let's start looking at those solutions and see if they're doable and see what can be done to encourage more early childhood educators into the field and bring some out of retirement. There's ways to do this, but certainly the way that you're not going to do it is by presenting a partial picture of success. Because what I'm hearing is the success is not there just yet, and many families, and of course my district, Topsail Paradise, we have so many schools in the area, and so many young families, and so many two-income families, and some of them are deciding whether one of their partners or not has to give up their job. So I would like to hope so. In the budget, I mean, I'd like to see and hear some real innovative ways, and some not so innovative, because some are staring you right in the face, some ways in which they're going to deal with the major issue of childcare education in this province.
Paul Dinn, I appreciate your call this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Linda. Look, have a great day. Happy spring.
Same to you.
All the best. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. We're a little ways off spring yet, but you can feel the change in the air, can't you, Fonz? You can feel it. Yeah, that equinox thing is really noticeable. There you go. That's my scientific evaluation. We're going to take a very short break. When we come back, we're going to speak with a newly elected member for Ward 4 in the city of St. John's, Tom Davis, when we come back right after this.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Bigland FM radio network.
And we are back. And you recall we heard from Jack earlier in the show, born before 1970, planning a trip outside of Canada and wondering where he could get the information on his vaccine record for the measles. And he called us back, Fonz King.
Yes, he did. Jack called us back. And he was talking to a lady with a telephone number that he had. Oh, hold on, I know why. There.
That's better.
You were.
I forgot to flip over my thing when I plugged in my headset. So let me back up and start over. So Jack called back, and the provincial government has records from 1954 onward. Some of the early ones can be a little sketchy. We're talking about paper records being digitized. So I believe his wife or his girlfriend, one or the other, they have her records. They didn't find his records, but like they said, he was born in the late 50s. Chances are he was vaccinated. You couldn't go to school without your vaccination, but they don't have a record of it. I called the same number he had just to chat with the people at Health Services. They gave me another number to call. I call that number as well. And the conclusion that we came to is if you are looking for your medical records, it's best for individuals to call 811, give them where they were born, where they're currently living, and then they will be able to give you a number and narrow it down rather than us give out the numbers that we have, because it's different depending on where you are in the province and where your health records are stored.
Right. So if you were born in 1957 and you grew up in Springdale, then they would be able to tell you, okay,
call this number and
yes,
they can get your records.
Exactly.
So 811 is the best number to call if you're looking to track down your medical records.
Okay,
great.
great.
And I shouldn't say medical records. I keep saying medical records, vaccination records, because there is a difference between your medical record and your vaccination record.
Yeah.
Right. Perfect.
Well, that's great, Fonz. That's very helpful for us to know that. We're going to go now to the elected member for Ward 4 in the city of St. John's, Tom Davis. Hello, Tom.
Good morning, Linda.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, and thank you to everyone who helped and who voted, and also to the other candidates.
And I
spent the last month. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I see you're going to be sworn in today.
I am, yeah. I'm actually should really be down there now, but I spent the last 6 weeks running and immersed in the issues of Ward 4, which I'll stay immersed, of course. However, there's just so much stuff coming at us, and so I've got so many notes. So I'm going to try, leading into the budget, coming off of Paul Dinn's spend phone call. No offense, Paul. However, I don't know what's going on in this province, and just the shell game that our leaders do with us. So I wanted to give an update on our actual debt, because everybody talks about gross debt, but that really is kind of a misnomer, especially because they overvalue the Muskrat Falls project at basically what we paid for it, which everybody knows it's not worth anywhere near that, unfortunately, with the cost of electricity coming out of there over 25 cents a kilowatt hour, which nobody wants to pay that. That's just cost, let alone any profit that Newfoundland Power or anybody else would want to make on it. Gross debt from Newfoundland, right off their website, $19,916 million. So that's because we borrowed $2.1 billion this year. So every one of these golden announcements, every little gem that's in the budget tomorrow, that whether it's a new school or a raise, that's all borrowed. That's all borrowed. And in addition, a lot of people will get paid and a lot of suppliers will receive money. Some of that's borrowed too. Nalcor hydro debt, almost $11 billion. Unfunded pension liability, over $4 billion. Unfunded group health and life insurance retirement benefits, over $3 billion. The new Corner Brook Hospital, long-term care homes, new mental health hospital, of course, the payday loans, the public-private partnerships with a much higher cost of capital plus a profit motive plus risk built into it because businesses don't want to take risks, $1.3 billion. So, whether it's a new pen or a highway, everything applies. It doesn't make any sense. We issued a bond at, say, 4.5%, 30 years, the province of Newfoundland, and a private corporation, that might be cost of capital of 10%. Newfoundland Power wants to go up to 9.5%. So you can imagine what someone who's running a much higher risk enterprise would want as a cost of capital. Debt of the healthcare corps, difficult to really figure out, especially because apparently they have these really big line of credits now. But I've estimated $181 million. MUN long-term debt, $223 million. Unfunded pension liabilities at MUN, $44. Unfunded post-employment benefits of MUN, that's their healthcare and their life insurance, $280 million. Unfunded post-employment benefits at Nalcor, $86 million. That adds up to over $41 billion. So for the people working who got to pay that off, that's $177,000 per working person in the province. And our spending this year, over $10 billion, and that's $44,000 per working person. And that $2.1 billion works out to $9,000 per person borrowed that's working.
I want to circle back for a second because you mentioned the health authorities and you said it's difficult to figure out what they owe. And that's a concern because we've seen some of the spending recently there and the apparent lack of oversight. So is that a concern for you? I mean, why aren't those numbers more readily available?
Well, the transition to NL Health Services is part of the problem because there used to be individual financial statements kept. And obviously, we're dealing with last year's numbers. So 2023, we're still in 2022's world because they don't have their audit statements. Obviously, the year end doesn't end until the end of this month. So you just don't know. I mean, there's no way to find that out unless you had access to their financial software, which we don't, obviously. So, but again, everybody, you hear Paul talking about it, and it's legitimate. There's so many things need to be done. Spend. But overlay that with the realities of our province. So Valet just extended their life of their mine by 10 years till 2034. That's not that far away. This hydrogen dream, I mean, whether I'm for it or against it, I can go both ways. However, that'll be short-term jobs and then 100 jobs working in the hydrogen ammonia facilities. It's not going to replace the oil industry. It doesn't have the same margins. Corner Brook Mill, obviously, you were talking to the mayor this morning, life support. The fishery, depressed crab prices, which is the big cash cow, warming waters, and we know the impact that's having on it, which is having that's in an industry. It's amazing when you hear fishers talk about, wanting free market. Well, if you remove EI from the world of the processors, because as well that subsidizes their operations, and from the fishers, you're nowhere near in any sort of real world. Plus, there's also no royalties go to the residents of Canada. So the fishers and the processors don't own the fish. Newfoundlanders don't even technically own the fish. Every resident of Canada owns a little bit of the fish, and there's no dividend. And not only is there no dividend, it's obviously costing a lot in EI. We've got DFO. We've got the portion of the provincial government that looks at fishing, and then we've got whatever part of the Coast Guard. So there's all kinds of subsidies. So that's a challenge. Aquaculture, warming waters will decrease productivity, increase mortality, declining oil production. So last January versus this January, down almost 19%. A value down over 21%. To put it in perspective, this past year was the worst year since 2012, and then there's a gap till 2001. So the third worst year, last worst year that we produced less oil was 2012, and it's only going down. We've got, of course, the expensive and unreliable Muskrat Falls / Labrador Island link. The ambition of our children and just their straight-out intelligence is dropping. The Program for International Student Assessment, the PISA assessment, says that since 2018, our students are down 1 3/4 years where they should be in math. And if you want to go back to 2000.
So is that overall intelligence, or is that the ability to think analytically and critically?
Well, it's their math scores. I mean, it's difficult to know. I don't think it's difficult to know that memorization, work ethic, respect for elders, all the important things, ability to memorize anything really, or even to care a lot about how you do academically, for the most part, has been removed from the culture of the province on a mainstream. It's so frustrating. I mean, if you go back till 2003, we're down 3 years. So I'll just directly say our children are 3 years dumber in the way they process the world in the last 20 years, which is crazy. And I already talked about the payday loans. We can't keep our hospitals open. We got the most unhealthy, physically, mentally unhealthy people in the country. The levels of debt that we have, I already talked about, business bankruptcies, the disregard for the environment. I mean, Cliff Small, again, I know the man, but if you ask him straight out, he does not believe in man-made climate change. He was on with Patty and he said, there used to be glaciers in Florida. Well, I think that really tells the tone of what's going to be our future cabinet. And again, I would call myself conservative at heart, but the disconnect with the environment and the impact of climate change, which you quoted earlier, 5 degrees warmer in Canada, I mean, that's just insane. That there's going to be long-term consequences. This is going to be a summer where the West, the East, and Central burns. And
5 degrees warmer is way higher than any of the scientific projections. Way higher. It's alarming.
And no snowpack to drench all the area of our country that's in a drought. Plus there's water issues. BC is conserving water. Like it's, we talk about what's happening down in California or the southern United States. I mean, and the disconnect, everybody wants to keep on keeping on. Pickup trucks and side-by-sides and flying around the world. And I understand, I get it. Like we all want to live our lives and we don't want change. But I just wonder how bad it would have to be before we actually realize the state that we've got ourselves in financially, physically, environmentally, and we just, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say you're a counselor now, or you will be momentarily. So how do you, from the city's perspective, focus on, what needs to be put in place so that we can meet these targets when it comes to EV vehicles and the like? Because let's be honest, the infrastructure is lacking.
Well, unfortunately, first of all, I don't speak for the city. I'm not even technically a counselor yet, and I have to be really careful when I'm on because I don't want to give the perception I'm speaking for the city. I'm only one of 11 people, and there's a team of people down there. I'm going to try and bring my voice to the table, and I'm hoping it's going to have an impact. And it's not about EVs. Unfortunately, most people's standard of living in this province is dropping. And you can decide how you want to coach it, but that's with the government borrowing money, both the federal, provincial governments borrowing money to maintain it. If you took the $2.1 billion or all that debt out of this province and then what the feds are borrowing, because they're borrowing billions as well, that's maintaining the standard of living of especially the employees directly, and then the trickle down from those employees and the suppliers that supply them. So for me, it's the realization that everybody's standard of living is going to drop. We peaked 10 years ago in Newfoundland. Canada, maybe not much different. I mean, there's a lot of variables you can't predict, but if you line everything up, for me, it's, okay, how do we make sure people have a sustainable city to live in, that they can afford to live in? How do we keep our costs down? But more importantly, how do leaders model? For example, I really used to love traveling, and I really struggle when I do. So how do we build into the city, in the province, in the country? We don't put people on airplanes unless they need to go, and we only put the exact number of people need to go on them, and we don't idle our vehicles. And so there's modeling, and we make sure we eat healthy. Anything to do with council, that we're modeling it, that we're out trying to. If we're going to host something in the community, we go, maybe we do something ethnic or something that's vegetarian or something that's healthy. I mean, all these things are really difficult, but we also have to be prepared to talk about the fiscal challenges. We need to counter the misinformation that is put out by special interest groups. I mean, I'll use a very controversial example, but nurses are not respected. I don't know what that means. Nurses, to me, are one of the highest professions, the noblest profession you possibly have. So I guess what Eva Coffey means when she says that is, we want more money. But the problem is with professionals, and people, once they reach a certain point, they stop working as much. And that's why doctors are working 3 days. That's why nurses are casual, not because they can't get a full-time job. And they're not working as much overtime as they want you to think they're working, because a lot of the overtime is working on a stat holiday or because they worked on a day they weren't scheduled. It's not necessarily that they're working all these hours. Now, there are some nurses, some incredible selfless nurses who are doing that. There's no debate. But nobody counters that information, the misinformation, because now we have a lot of different services we rely on, and we're borrowing money. Like at some point, people need to realize that if the average person in Newfoundland, the median income in Newfoundland is $36,800, and we're spending $44,635 on our provincial budget, well, I got to look everybody in the face and say that is not sustainable. That's not even remotely sustainable.
Yeah, that
right?
math doesn't check out.
Does not add up. Right, yeah. Right. So we need to focus on quality of life, but not money. Somehow we've got to get this whole money thing, and we got to because everything that we spend that money on, for the most part, with the exception of like good, healthy food and a comfortable roof overhead, anything more than we need plus a little bit more, that's all unsustainable. That's all quality of life that we cannot maintain, and it's infrastructure that a municipality can't maintain, and it's all damaging the environment. All that waste that goes in Robin Hood Bay, we had to pay for it, and then we had to burn, in most cases, fossil fuels to produce it and to transport it, and then we utilize it, then it goes. That's where a lot of our oil revenue and a lot of our mineral revenue goes, is in landfills or gets crushed up and sent off somewhere else. That's where the money is gone. And whether you had a 250 series truck or a very small car, it still gets you around, and I just think we just need to somehow figure out how to be healthier, how to volunteer more, how to model for our children what a sustainable life looks like our grandparents and great-grandparents, where they didn't waste and where they valued each other and valued their communities. And I just think, what we eat, cooking food at home, the fast food, just every part of it, like somehow trying to ask our province what we can do for it and not what that they can do for us. And that's, I'll just leave it at that. And there's a lot of stuff there, I know, but Linda, I am really, really worried about the immediate future. We used to always have the benefit of say, oh, well, the next generation will have to deal with that. Well, no, it's time for us, our generation, your generation, my generation, and all the generations in this province to come together and to realize that we've put ourselves in a bad situation, but collectively we can also work towards having a sustainable, healthy province where people can afford to live and where we don't have the highest rates of all the bad things, instead the highest rates of the good things.
Tom Davis, I appreciate your call this morning. Thank you very much.
Take care, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye. We'll be back right after this.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Big Land FM radio network.
And we are back. We're going now to Chris. You're on the air. Hi, Chris.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing very well, thank you.
What's on your mind?
So I wanted to talk a little bit about the MOU that was signed yesterday between Canada and Germany. It's kind of in the weeds a little bit, but and we won't know all the details for another 90 days or so. But basically, what they've proposed is what's called a double-sided auction, and this is in an attempt to bring down the cost of this green ammonia for the folks in Germany who will be buying it.
So what does a double-sided auction mean?
Well, so it means that on the production side, you would have your bidders, basically, who are saying, we are offering to make hydrogen for ammonia export at X price. And then on the other side, you would have a series of buyers who would be in this bidding pool in order to get the other side of it. And the way Germany has been running these auctions is that they generally come with a per ton subsidy. So it's, the businesses can find each other. The added layer of sort of government assistance is to make the price achievable for investment.
And I noticed that some of the companies involved in this foundation that was referenced in the initial announcement are a lot of the companies that came over here during that business trip.
Yeah, within Germany, they, the minister made some allusions to the security situation with Russia, and really that's, For Germany, that's an economic issue. They used to have very cheap piped natural gas, and a huge portion of their industries ran off of that, and now they do not. And so there's been a sincere attempt to try and bridge that gap with hydrogen and green ammonia. And, they're spending a lot of money on electrolyzers and pipelines. That's where the majority of German and European investment is going into the hydrogen sector, is making it themselves in Europe. And, in the maths of it all, that's kind of the way to use hydrogen. There's a really great piece by Michael Liebrich who discusses what he calls the hydrogen ladder. And shipping hydrogen as ammonia derived from intermittent sources like wind ends up with about an 80% loss in electrons by the time it gets to Germany.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, because why Canada? Shipping it over that vast amount of geography, certainly there's got to be, hydrogen more readily available to them.
Well, so hydrogen at the moment is a manufactured product that comes largely from steam methane reformation from coal or natural gas. Green hydrogen is basically a downstream product of electricity. And, 2 or 3 years ago, there was a lot of excitement about how much demand there would be for green hydrogen, what the cost of electrolyzers would be, the relative output of wind farms, the cost of electricity on these wind farms, all kinds of stuff. And those cost reductions have not materialized. Electricity and parts and electrolyzers are often more expensive and in shorter supply than they were. And so the overall case for this kind of transformative hydrogen economy has been, falling apart. And Germany really did acknowledge that in January this year when they said they were going to be building 10 gigawatts of new natural gas-fired capacity. That's the way you get energy right now, or for as cheap as possible.
So are you suggesting that selling point here are subsidies?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and World Energy has said specifically that they can't look at the project without the 40% subsidies. And this auction, and again, don't know the details of it yet, but the way it exists on the German side is per ton subsidies as well. So the economics of these cases is incredibly marginal. And, without a huge amount of government input, they're not viable. Now, this is coming from the oil people, so, take it with a grain of salt, but they've scaled back their own green hydrogen projects because the market is not there. At the moment, it looks like the manufacturing of green hydrogen is going to be $5 to $6 a kilogram. Blue hydrogen is $2 or $3. There's the potential of geologic hydrogen that would be $1. Like the oil companies will make money off it if they can, but the market is not even there.
So what's your interest in it? How did you become so, involved in these numbers?
So I live out here on the West Coast, in Searston, in the Codroy Valley. And one of the wind sites that is being proposed is for the Anguille Mountains. That it's less talked about than Port-au-Port for sure. We're further down the production line, I guess. But we have hunting camps, we have meat processors, we have tourist operations. We have a lot of small businesses that rely on the land, and it's not just a passive landscape for our community. So through the jigs and reels of it, I kind of figured I should become a bit more literate on the subject and figure out, okay, is this a good thing for our community, or is this, just kind of another subsidy scheme? And, really, it seems like it's throwing, good dollars after bad and giving people promise of something that is not going to pan out anyways.
Chris, very interesting indeed. You're part of the overall debate here, and is part of the concern among local residents, I suppose, these questions that they feel are not being answered?
Yeah, they're the kind of the sort of vibe for a while has been, well, these windmills are going to happen whether you like it or not. And that's not unique with kind of big government projects. And, the provincial government is maybe a little bit more coy, but they did basically redesign the Crown Lands Department to facilitate the wind bids. And, the federal government is already, spending hundreds of millions of dollars in trying to advance the project. So clearly a decision has been made by certain decision makers, and, local people feel fundamentally annoyed by that, which is correct. There are even people who like the idea of wind energy. You say, well, yeah, it's windy here. We should probably have an amount of windmills. But having some windmills, assumably owned by our utility, if we're paying for 40%, that could be sensible. But a huge number of, pretty largely inefficient windmills that are known to break at the biggest scale, and losing 80% of those electrons as we ship it over to Germany, as both ends of the business are subsidized. There are so many reasons to be annoyed by it. And small business owners that can't get the time of day from government, let alone hundreds of millions of dollars, I think are right to say that this is, a pretty poor investment in the region.
Chris, appreciate your call this morning. We're up to news time. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. You have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye. Your thoughts on what he's had to say, by all means, give us a call. We're up to news time now with Brian Medore.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Bigland FM radio network.
And we are back. We're going to start the final hour of the program with Sean Callahan. Hello.
Good afternoon. How are you? Good morning. It's still morning.
It's still morning.
The sun just came out. I'm standing on the veranda in Bowering Park, Linda.
Oh, are you? What a wonderful vantage.
It is a beautiful morning in here. You should see the sun just came out. And the reason I'm calling is that last week, the Bowering Park Foundation, the spokesperson for them, announced that they're putting out an RFP, or request for proposals, to occupy the bungalow.
Yeah, for a leasing opportunity, I suppose.
Well, you'd think so. And I'm thinking, and I have three lovely ladies who I just bumped into while I was walking up here to the bungalow to give you a call, or I had you on hold, or you had me on hold. And we were chatting about it and all the good memories and all the thoughts that your listening public should know about. First of all, the spokesperson last week for the Bowering Park Foundation said, yeah, well, it might be a good opportunity for maybe a physiotherapy clinic or something. And so far, I've talked to about 50 different people who I know who bring their grandchildren or used to come in here with their parents and so on, and hang out around the bungalow and remember getting their Kutzer-Cone or some nice little meal. And, you can really enjoy it in here. And right now today, you can't even get a bottle of water. You can't go in by the fire. If someone was tired, they just want to take a rest inside and have a cup of tea, they can't do it. So that's what the thing was put here by the Bowerings, or why it was put here back when young Munn died on the Florizel on the southern shore over 100 years ago. And the Bowerings put the bungalow here so the people of the city and visitors to the city from all over could come in and rest up, get a little bite to eat and chat with different people, sit on the lawn with their family with a blanket or something, and just enjoy that afternoon. And now, I mean, if we let this go to someone who's just going to do catering and send it out across the city, then it's not open every day at like 10 o'clock and close maybe at 5, And I think that's what we need. And I want to reach out to the entire public today, and these ladies have their own thoughts. So I'll just go around the circle. I just met them, so I don't even know their names. Cindy. Carol.
Madonna.
So Madonna, do you want to start like how you feel?
I think it would be great to have a little tea room or something here so that, people could come and sit outside and have their cup of tea or coffee, or have the option to have coffee or a lunch here if they came to visit.
That's for the whole public, for anybody.
For anybody, accessible to everybody, and especially some of the elderly people that's coming down here. They need more accessible toilet facilities and stuff like that.
So maybe a little break from their walk.
Yes, exactly.
Hi, I'm Carol, and I think it would be a great idea for grandkids and anybody to just come down, and it's more enticing for more people to come if there's a place here to grab a coffee instead of going to Tim's or McDonald's, and it's just the atmosphere would be so much nicer.
A little lunch and some homemade tea buns?
Yes, that would be great.
Yeah. So the other lady here, she's saying she doesn't want to say anything, but she is a bit vocal, so she may say a couple of words if we ask her. She's being a little bit shy. But, the RFP was put out there, and I'm glad you're sitting down, because I looked up the RFP. It's on the Bowering Park Foundation website, and it said that there's a $30,000 tax bill every year that whoever occupies this is going to have to pay, in addition to the rent and so on. I mean, what little tea room operator could afford to pay $30,000 a year plus rent? I mean, this is supposed to be a public service, isn't it?
So the RFP is limiting, is what you're saying.
Very limiting, and you got to have it. You got to have it responded to by the 8th of April, which gives nobody who's going to try and do the numbers on this time to commit to what the city is at, or the Bowring Park Foundation is asking for, a 5-year lease commitment.
Yeah, that requires a fairly extensive business plan, which I'm sure you can't pull together in, just a few days.
And they've had all last summer or last fall. They knew it wouldn't be occupied this year, and suddenly they put it out right now with just a few weeks to get your proposal, and apparently it goes to the highest bidder. That's not what this park is about. This park is about having things that will sustain the people who come and visit, right, girls?
Yeah, family. It's all about family.
And I just met these ladies here. I just asked them, like, I was on hold for you, and they were walking down the safest place in the city, I think, away from all the snow on sidewalks and everything else. It's so nice even this time of the year.
The only place to walk this time of year.
Yeah.
The only place the streets are safe, especially for people our age.
Yeah, if you don't get in out of it when it's really cold and windy, and get your feet by the fire with a cup of coffee or tea. And that's all we're talking about, Linda. So we hope that your news station today on your news broadcast can announce to the entire public that this has got to be preserved for the general public that come through here and they just want to drop in during the daytime, any time of the year, Sundays, weekends, evenings, whatever, and at least have something that you can eat that's decent. We know there's a little place up by the swimming pool, but most of that is junk and sugar stuff, and it's not really healthy at all. So there are enough businesses around St. John's that would love to take up shop in here and put out a nice product, and they wouldn't even have to cook it here. They could cook it at their own places and bring it in here and offer homemade foods and soups and just little snacks and things that people can sit and enjoy.
Sean, you made your case. We'll see what others have to say. 4 for the price of 1.
I think so. And I got to thank my friends who I just met because they felt the same way. So I thank you for that. We've got to get something, either extend the RFP for another month so at least other people who are interested in putting what we just talked about here, give them time to put in a proper amount. And for God's sake, the city shouldn't be charging the $10,000 and $30,000 in taxes. Just pay the rent. But this tax bill is ridiculous.
Sean Callahan, I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much, and thank you to the ladies as well. All righty.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. There you go. 4 for the price of 1. Sean Callahan with his thoughts on the Bowring Park bungalow and how the RFP that was issued by the City of St. John's will not allow enough time for a proper business model for continued use for the general public there. If you have any thoughts on that, you're welcome to give us a call. Fons King, what do you want?
I wanted to bring back the monkey cages and custard cones. That's all I've ever wanted to see in Bowring Park is the monkey cages.
Monkey cages? I don't remember those.
Okay,
what is that?
So the very brief period of Bowring Park's history, there was a cage with a couple of monkeys. I believe it might have been the late 40s, early 50s. Bowring Park had monkeys, and it all stopped.
Oh, but you don't
No,
know.
I'm kidding. But no. Okay, so I do. So my grandmother actually lived in the bungalow for a brief period because her father was the caretaker of the park, and the caretaker's family lived in the bungalow. So yeah, there were monkeys in Bowring Park at one point, and it all stopped when they got out of the cages and wreaked havoc throughout the park.
Oh dear!
It was like 2 years.
That's
that
hilarious.
We had monkeys in Bowring Park.
There you go.
But
A little
I do remember
vignette
custard
of-
cones.
Yes.
Right.
I thought monkey cages were something you could eat when you mentioned it.
No. I just think apparently there was a brief period in St. John's history where Bowring Park potentially was going to become a zoo.
Oh, wow.
And it started with some monkeys, and then they realized, we don't know how to take care of exotic animals, so let's no longer have monkeys.
This history vignette brought to you by Fons King.
Yep. Anyways, but custard cones in Bowring Park.
Excellent.
That's what needs to be brought back.
And monkey cages? Your thoughts, by all means, give us a call. Now's your chance to do so. We're in the last 45 minutes of the show. Pick up the phone.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Big Land FM radio network.
And we are back. We're going to go now to Chad. You're on the air. Hello, Chad.
Good morning, Linda. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I called for a very serious matter that's Well, it's starting to affect everybody in Canada and everybody in Newfoundland, and it probably affects you, I'm willing to say. And that's the great amount of number of people that are dying due to drug addictions and addictions themselves.
Oh, yeah. It's all around us and very visible.
Yeah, it's very visible, but I'm guilty of this myself, but it seems like the day of this information highway that's going through, we become numb to it. And I started watching the TV the other day, and it come up on there was a government advertisement. 22 people a day die directly from drug overdose. And I stopped for a second. I thought, 22. That's 666 people a month, 8,000 people a year, just on overdoses alone. It blew my mind. I went to the site, and I looked at it, and I said, yeah, it's true. It's actually true. Since 2016, they did a presentation on there. 41,000 people have died. I was flabbergasted.
If that was a particular virus, or if it was a workplace injury or any other cause of death, we'd all be going, wait a minute, what's going on?
Exactly.
We'd be panicking and taking action.
So I read a little bit deeper, and this is another staggering number there. It's 45,000 people commit suicide a year. Out of those 4,500 people commit suicide a year. 27,000 in that same time frame, that same 6-year time frame from 2016 to 2023. And out of those suicides, the majority was from mental illness. And out of those mental illness cases, 50% were known drug abusers. And out of those drug abusers, 1 in 3 had mental illness issues thereafter. So that 41,000 since 2016 just came up to 48,000 in the last 6 years. And then numbers to 6 years, and I said, holy moly. And I went back, I said, how many people from Canada died in World War II? And approximately the same number of years, 6 years, civil and military, we lost 45,000 people. And at that time, this whole world was fighting that battle. I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, it's powerful.
It's crazy.
It's powerful, especially when you make those comparisons. But the problem, I suppose, is how do you address it? It's complex.
I'll tell you how you address it. And this is my view on it. We make our politicians accountable. You address it like this. Those that are suffering from addictions, give your testimony, lobby. Like those guys in World War II, they died. They knew they were going into hell. It's very easy for me and you to lobby our government. We're not facing bullets when we pick up that phone and call. When we lobby our MP and our MHA. And those that have families like children, aunts and uncles, I know everybody in Newfoundland. I have family. Everybody out there's got family. Everybody knows somebody that's being affected by that. And it's crazy how we're letting it all slide. And I'd just like to say that. I'd like to say everybody who's out there suffering addiction, lobby your MHA, lobby your MP, lobby your counselor, lobby who you got to lobby. It's easy. Pick up the phone. It's crazy.
And yet it's a global issue. I mean, we're talking about geopolitics and the like. It like I said, it's complex and it's difficult, and it includes every aspect from health to law enforcement and in between. So, if it was easily solved, it would have been solved, one would think.
I know, yes, but we start with me and you, do we not? Do we not start with me and you? Like, do we not say, listen, we're not going to stand for this? Like, we're paying out of pocket now. Like, everybody on average is paying 30% their income tax. You got other taxes, but we're paying with 50% for what, though? Like if you take the drug situation, I can guarantee you now, a lot of this homelessness will go away. A lot of mental illness, a lot of strain on our economic and social perspectives will go away. Just by I know you just can't solve it overnight. Don't get me wrong. It's going to take everybody standing up. and saying, hey, we're sick of this. We're tired of this. We want to put people in there as accountable. We want you to do something about it. I was over at the Haven Arrest. There's a addiction center we're trying to start here on the West Coast. Pierre Paliev showed up there, which was great, and I was surprised at his answer to my questions. And are you aware that, like just coming into Montreal alone, there's over 5,000 containers, and we only have 5 agents there looking after those 5,000 containers? Like, it's brutal. Like, how, like, we're letting that much in here into our country is crazy. And it's easily getting in. I don't know. We got to put more money into that, I think, and we got to make more people accountable.
Chad, I appreciate your call this morning. It's a huge issue, an important issue. It's one that we've all seen, and really becoming more and more apparent, even for those who aren't, dealing with it in their immediate families. It's becoming more and more apparent in our society as a whole, right across country.
Exactly. I mean, what would the fallen soldiers think about how we're handling it now? What did they give their lives, or they give the ultimate cost, right?
Chad, I appreciate your call this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And like I said, the only way to get through this is going to be through prayer and making reaching out to your MHAs, your MPs to really make this one of the priorities for their campaign. Anyway, thank you very much. God bless. Have a good day.
All right, Chad. Thank you. Bye-bye. We're going to go now to Tony. You're on the air. Hello, Tony.
Yes, how are you today, Linda?
Oh, good. How are you?
Good, thanks. I just want to comment on this healthcare, just where they flying back and forth nurses and giving them $36.5 million. And when I came up in the house there watching the other day, we were saying that the fact that they were dealing, the people from the Premier's office, the senior officials, 3 of them, plus Chief of Staff, is dealing with this company that got this contract since January 2022. And so anyway, here they are, don't know nothing, but yet when it was asked by the opposition to the Premier, when did you find out, he would not get up and answer the question. And then Tom Osborne got up and answered, well, how do we know what's going on if nobody knows what anybody's going on? But anyway, Tom got up and said, well, when it comes into the office, he said, well, sent to different ministers. So now he had to be one of them, seeing he's the health minister. So he knew all about it, and somebody had to sign off on this money. You were talking about an average of $7.3 million a month for 5 months. That's just unheard of, and they had to sign off on it. Anybody just don't go in and take a check and go on. This is unbelievable. And they wants to see that they got the contract in front of them, so why don't they just come out and say it? You don't need somebody to come in and do an investigation on about the contract, unless, you should have an Auditor General and go in and see where all this money went out and how it went out. But Tom Osborne, they all knows this. He knows this was Canada. The contract's right in front of him. All they do is look. Just unheard of all this, what's going on. It'd be all, it's unbelievable. And the same thing with the bodies that was found outside in the tube, whatever they were outside the health science. So the same thing. They got to know about all this. That's why they got officials in place. And the same thing with and I'll just touch on another item, is just this school they're building in Paradise. They come out and announce this, and they're going to have money in the budget, but yet they don't know where it's going to go, how big it's going to be, or anything else. Just unbelievable what they're doing. I just announced, because there's going to be an election, I'd say, in the near future, before all this happens. And when Paul Dean asked the minister about this school, and he said, it's going to be years where it starts. She said, yes, well, we've got to find out all about it. We've got to meet with the people. Well, that's all you had to do was hold town hall meetings for the people to let them know, and everybody wants one, and everybody will know, tell them what they want, but they never refuse to do it. So, it's going to take years, according to the minister, before this goes ahead. So what the announcement that they made, they could have done on open line. Because, it's just unheard of what they're going to do now. And all these announcements coming up for the budget, that's not even going to go ahead. Not one thing. Just like that prison they're announcing. They'll have the money. And what gets me about is that at school, how can they don't know how big it is. They don't know where it's going to go. They don't know anything about it, but yet they're going to have money in the budget. How's that possible? That's what gets me. How is this possible?
Imagine that those details will be released sometime during tomorrow's budget announcement. Well, certainly we're waiting for more information.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see. Well, according to her, it's going to take her a long time because what you got to do is they got to go out and talk to the people first. So they're not going. If they do, it's all going to be once again misinformation. Because she said in the House there before they closed it that they were going to go out and talk to the people and have to see what they want and how big it's going to be in order to talk to the people in order to see how big it's going to be. So for them to announce it tomorrow is only going once again. It's going to be all fluff and no stuff. I mean, that's what I look at it. I mean, it's just announcement. I mean, just like the prison they announced too. I mean, they're going to build a prison. Last year they wouldn't do it because it was gone up 200,000. Sure, wait, next year is going to go up to another 200,000 or 300,000. So I mean, everything they're announcing is just nothing behind it. They're just doing it because of the election, just trying to get elected again. Because the way I look at it, they need to get elected one more time so they can give the Muskrat Falls away. I think the deal is done. It's just that they got to. Nobody will hold back then. It's just done, and that's it. And nobody can do anything.
Wait. You're connecting to this to a giveaway at Muskrat. Sorry. Back up?
I think that they got to get elected again because none of this is going to happen. All these announcements because they're there's no substance behind it. But I think and everything is going on here behind the scenes, like all this Muskrat Falls thing they're dealing with Quebec, and at the same time nobody wants to come out and say anything about it. So I mean, to me, I think they needs the power. And I think that's going to be done. I think there's going to be an announcement done after if they ever get elected again, which I hope the Lord they won't, because there's enough people have died now because of the hospitals and everything, lack of doctors and everything else. So I think right now they got to go because people are starving to death, losing their homes and everything else on this. So, I mean, they got to go. I mean, just because right now we can't afford to have liberals in there anymore. And we got to have somebody in there that's going to look after the people.
Tony, on that note, we have to leave it there. We're up to news time. I really appreciate your time. All right.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Your thoughts on what Tony's had to say, by all means, do give us a call. We are up to news time now with VOCM's Brian Medore. We'll be back right after this.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Big Land FM radio network.
And we are back. We are going now to Ruby. You're on the air. Hi, Ruby.
Good morning, Linda. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great there. Thank you. Wonderful show you're having today. I'm coming on the ends of the one that Chad, I think was probably your last caller. And I have to agree with him 100%. He had some very good ideas there. But that's not the only reason I called. I called to talk about the Comfort Inn. I have been asking since the announcement came out for some answers. I have not gotten them. I've gone publicly. I've met with ministers. I have not been giving any answers. So I'm going to bring a few points, if I can, out, and maybe some of your listeners can probably answer the question, since we can't get it from government. What is the criteria for somebody to get into one of those units? I have been told, and please, I don't have 100% facts, but I've been told there are already 15 units occupied. And I've also been told that they're occupied by newcomers, which I have no problem in helping newcomers. But when you walk to Tent City and you go down to the gathering place and you go near some of those shelters that has 9 beds in one room and no security, and you look at the people that are using and have mental health issues and nobody to help them, then I have a question. What are we doing? Are we bringing in more people in this province than we can accommodate? If we don't have space for our own, how can we bring somebody else in and put our own out? And I'm not being prejudiced here. I want that to be a clear message, because I've helped new families just as much as I've helped the homeless and the addiction and whatever. But addiction is gotten way out of control in our city, and I'm sure around the province as well. And when you go to look at it all, it's homeless, it's mental health, and it's addictions combined. And there is just no help. Recently, I had the opportunity to see a young person go to St. Clair's that had a problem. begged for help. He begged for help at the mental hospital. Can't send you there because if you're using, they won't assess you. Now, we all know, Linda, in this province and anywhere in the world probably, addiction, mental health, and homelessness goes hand in hand. I had the opportunity to pick up a young man from the tent to bring him to get a burger. Here's what he said to me in my car. He was from Labrador. He said, all I want, Ruby, is a room with a lock on the door, a stove to cook on, a bed to sleep on, and a bathroom to use that I can call my own, and I can lock the door and feel safe. He didn't ask for an elaborate hotel. He didn't ask for anything other than that. I just sat in my car and I cried with him. It's not too much to ask. I spoke to another young man a few days ago that was in a shelter. Oh, yes, they put him in shelters when the snow came, the storms came, but as much as 9 beds in a room, he woke up to find somebody using next bed to him. He wasn't a user himself. How can those people, whether they're 19 years old or 30 years old, how can they get help if that's the kind of help we're giving them? I have been, since our rally back on August the 23rd, I have not stopped asking and begging for some help for those people. You go to detox, if you get up 7 o'clock in the morning, okay, you got somebody that had a really bad night now. They got to be up at 7 o'clock in the morning and call detox to see if they might get in that day. They might. If they're lucky, they might get in by noon. If not, you get up the next morning and you call again. Now, those people that are homeless, that do not have a phone or any way to reach them, how do they get help? Nobody to help them. And this is facts. This is not just something off the top of my head. This is how this works. We were told there was $7-point-something million went into the Comfort Inn for a 2-year period. We have people that are getting evicted. I can tell you of another young girl that got an eviction coming up the end of this month because her rent went up and she couldn't afford it. And the only way that social services would pay that extra rent is if it came out of her food allowance, which was $140-something every 2 weeks. She'd have to take $75 out of that. So what does she live on then? So she's getting evicted. She got Tent City to look forward to. She's a young girl. No help. One of the questions that I asked government when I met with them back in August was if they would really put emphasis on having a quicker recovery center. We asked, not for nothing great, but if you could just put another 10-bed one, along with the one they have, might speed up and help. But then you must have somewhere for those people to go and not back in Tent City or on the streets when they come out of recovery, because they're going back to the same thing that they left. So all this money that's been pumped into the shelters to take them in overnight when it's snowing or take them in for a month, they get up in the morning, now you leave and you come back tonight. They're getting paid thousands of dollars of our tax-paying money, but they're not allowed to go back there in the day. But they go back there in the night, and everyone is bringing in their drugs, and they're using it right there on the site. So why is government not looking at the serious matters that is in this province with mental health, addiction, and homelessness? Forget the fact that they wake up in the morning and their blankets are so wet, they either got to cast them aside and somebody bring them more for the next night so they'd have a dry bed to sleep in. I have seen that over and over and over in this past winter, that they had to either sleep in wet blankets or somebody had to bring them dry blankets. Let somebody from government walk that shoe for one day, and I think you would see some difference. We need support. And if what Chad said, you and me and all of this province have to lobby together to help those people, because everybody is affected one way or another in this old, it just hurts me so much. One of the things that I asked for, and I put it in a release that went out to the public, I asked for current recovery centers to have shorter time frame between detox and recovery. If you go into detox, you have to be clean to go in recovery. You have to wait a month or 2 months. What happens in that space of time?
Yeah. What do you think happens? Yeah, it's a
What do you
vicious
think
circle.
happens?
Yeah.
It is a vicious circle. And I do outreach, I do the tents, I see the people with the grocery carts going around the street. I stop and give them mitts or a blanket or whatever I can find for them. I don't only just put myself to one spot. I go around the city. And in the back of my car, I normally got a bag of mitts or gloves or scarves or a jacket or boots or whatever. But I can't save the world. I'm only one. I'm begging, I'm pleading to people. Take a drive around, see, or call me and go with me for a day or two and have a look at what is happening out there with our young people. Now, it's my understanding in 2025, our new mental hospital will be open. I'm not sure if that's the correct date, but I've been told. I am going to put this out there. The mental hospital at the Waterford, why can't some money, we just had $7 million put into the Comfort Inn. Put $7 million in that hospital, and we could have a very good recovery center with recovery, detox, education, and housing into the one building.
Ruby, you're asking some great questions here just prior to the budget. Really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Your thoughts on what Ruby's had to say, by all means, give us a call. When we come back, we hope to speak with you.
This is Open Line on the VOCM Bigland FM radio network.
And we're back, and one of the conversations that has been had a lot in recent months and years, as a matter of fact, is this whole issue of high inflation and affordability. And Turo Canada recently conducted a survey on car ownership and how inflation is affecting that, especially among young people. And here to discuss that a little further is the Senior Director of Marketing at Turo Canada, Bassem El Rahimi. Hello, Bassem.
Hello. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, no trouble. So what was this survey all about? What prompted it?
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe I could tell a little bit more about, what Turo does and why we commissioned this survey. So for folks who may not know, Turo is a leading peer-to-peer car sharing platform in Canada. And what we do is we connect local car owners with an incredible community of travelers looking for the perfect car for their next adventure. And one of the things we wanted to do is to better understand the state of car ownership and usage in Canada. So we did a survey. We surveyed Canadians to better understand how they felt about car ownership and their usage of their car. And we learned some incredible things that I'm excited to share with you today. The first thing that we learned is that folks in the Atlantic are increasingly unable to afford car ownership due to inflation. But many, many folks, if not the majority, view vehicle access as essential. So that was a very kind of interesting learning for us, and we feel like Turo is an excellent alternative to the traditional ownership model. So Turo offers the flexibility of accessing a vehicle only when you need it without the long-term financial commitment of financing and leasing.
So would that work for a student, let's say, who's, needs to get back and forth for, 6 months or 8 months of the year?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for students that are car owners, by sharing their cars, Turo could help those students generate, on average, $725 of extra income a month. And then for the students that aren't car owners but are looking to access vehicles for, as you mentioned, kind of a time-bound duration, Turo offers that flexibility of really only paying for the car when you need to use it.
So who owns these cars then?
Folks like you and I, just any kind of car owner in Canada, in the provinces that we operate in, is able to list their car on the platform in kind of a few clicks and start monetizing what is usually an underutilized asset. When we ask Canadians, and specifically folks in the Atlantic, we've learned that for the vast majority of folks have a car, whether they own it or lease it, but that car sits idle 95% of the time. So then we ask folks, these vehicles aren't used very frequently, only 5% of the time. Atlantic residents, 85% of them told us that they feel like it would be impossible to not have a car. That's the highest that we've seen among all the provinces we surveyed. And about half of them said that they would need to change jobs if they didn't have a car. So it's really kind of interesting to see how important and critical the car is for many people, but it's really underutilized.
So, I mean, I don't know anybody that's got a car just sitting there and parked for, the year, and they're paying insurance and everything else on it. I don't know anybody like that. So what are you proposing exactly?
What I'm proposing is for folks to consider kind of how often they use their car. So I think, for some folks, they need it every day because they need to go to work. But, when they are on vacation or there is a duration of time they might be working from home, is to consider kind of offsetting the high cost of ownership by sharing their vehicles, whether it's one day a week, whether it's a few weeks of the year. The Turo platform offers incredible flexibility to car owners to really be able to share the vehicle when they want at the price that they want. And then for folks who are struggling to afford car ownership but require a car either to get to work or for that, a small vacation in, nearby or something like that, is to consider Turo as an alternative to not having to be kind of committed to a lease payment, insurance payment, or whatever it may be to own that car.
So, let's say, for instance, somebody is thinking about monetizing, as you put it, their vehicle in a greater way. They're no doubt going to have concerns like who's using it, for what purpose, am I legally responsible or liable in any way? What about the impact on my insurance? What are the answers to those types of questions?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a great question, and one, as you can imagine, we get often. Safety is at the core of our offering. So we offer insurance with every Turo reservation for both hosts and guests. To give you kind of more details about that, we offer $2 million in liability coverage via economical and up to the value of the vehicle and damages. So everybody is really well protected in the unlikely event of any issues. And then we also screen all guests and offer 24/7 roadside assistance at no additional cost. So, we really want to make sure that all participants are safe and are covered. And we've partnered with, a leading insurer to create a product specifically for this use case.
And how, if anybody's thinking, I'm going to be away this summer, my car is going to be in the driveway all summer. If they're thinking about this kind of option, how can they get a hold of you?
Absolutely. So I would encourage folks to go to Turo.com, Turo.com, or download our app on any of the app stores. And within a few clicks, they'll be able to list their car. We will reach out to them and make sure that they have configured the settings to the way that best suits them. And they'll be ready to go, and they'll be able to start accepting bookings within a matter of minutes.
Bassem El Rahimi, I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for having me today.
Alrighty. Bye-bye. Your thoughts on that? We only have 5 minutes left. We're going to go now to Mark. You're on the air. Hello, Mark.
Oh, hi. I actually had a little event that I heard about that I was hoping to get in real quick.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So this is something I heard, like my mom and her friend, I should say, were chatting, and they were chatting about being able to use computers and how scary it can be. And they were talking about this event that they both signed up for called Tech Talks, sort of like TED Talks, I guess.
Yeah.
But basically, it's like this all-day teaching event from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., and that's being held at the Capitol Hotel. And they were talking about all these cool classes that are apparently going to be there, like ChatGPT and Zoom. And the big one that I hear a lot from older people seems to be like protection from scams. And they're offering a class like that there. So
is this specifically tailored for seniors?
I don't think it's specifically for seniors, but, you know, like a lot of seniors could definitely avail of this type of service. I think it's pretty much open to anyone. But I think it's great because I just hear people complain about not knowing how to use their phones and computers, or like they lack the confidence. They're afraid it's going to blow up with the touch of a button. And these free classes could be exactly what they need.
And
so
I suppose the vulnerabilities it opens them up to, like you mentioned about cybersecurity and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's right. Like a lot of people are probably afraid to use their computers because, you know, of viruses and all these scare tactics that like scammers and hackers and stuff use. So I think these classes could probably, you know, teach them how to protect themselves online.
Who's putting this off?
From what I know, it's the Community Sector Council here in St. John's. And it's being hosted at the Capitol Hotel free of charge.
And when?
That would be this Thursday. So this Thursday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m.
And do you have to register ahead of time, or?
They told me they had to, so I think you do. So it might be best to call the CSC and, you know, try to get in touch with someone about the Tech Talks, I think it's called.
Tech Talks, the Community Sector Council, Capitol Hotel this Thursday. I'm sure there will be interest in that. Mark, thanks for letting us know.
Yes, you're welcome.
All right, you have a great day.
Yes, you too. Take
All right,
care now.
thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I usually host an afternoon show, so I'll say you have a great evening. But no, it's great afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. I'll be in the lock-in, locked away. I ought to be locked away.
Well, I've been saying you're going to be in the lockup all day tomorrow. Yeah, that's not where you're going to be. No,
it's in the lock-in
right.
For
Big
media.
difference.
And there's another separate lock-in. I don't even know where it's held. I think it's in the cafeteria down there in the basement of the building. But anyway, for other people, like, you know, we spoke with Nate earlier today and that sort of thing. So, you know, sort of the community groups, those kinds of things, and particular interest groups. So, yes, Brian Callahan is hosting Open Line tomorrow, so stay tuned for that, and keep those lines busy for He and Fonz tomorrow. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.